Hi everybody, welcome back to Ginny Reads.
Sorry.
This is me, Shweta, with Ginny and Poulomi. Hi Poulomi.
Hi. Apologies for the bad voice because we are all recovering, but I think so glad to be back, in fact, once again.
All right. So I know that it's the same thing that I keep saying these days. It's very cold in Delhi. I hope you all are doing fine.
Right.
And yeah. So let's get to what book you brought today for Ginny and kids and why.
Okay, so today it's a very special book. Eventually, it is definitely for kids because it is written keeping them in mind. But Shweta, you'll remember that often I also bring books where, as parents or as educators or as that significant adult, we need to do our own homework and read it up before we present it to the kids. So the name of the book is Philosophy for Children by Sundar Sarukkai, who himself is a philosopher, had been teaching for the last 3 decades, had been with NIAS. Um, and I think in the current time, um, this is a very relevant book for all of us to engage with, right? Another moment when we actually hear the word philosophy, and I'm taking a little bit of time here because it's important to also present that why this book, right? Often I think we always have terms associated with philosophy means like you are stretching it or you are intellectualizing it or you are problematizing it at the end of the day. But I think the basic premise of engaging with philosophy of anything is are two things. One is a question, right? That you're trying to question certain things. And why are you trying to question it? Because you're trying to develop other perspectives of seeing it in a way, right? And both of them are integral and fundamental to learning. So how come we speak of learning without philosophy? Because every pedagogy, every other thing actually has a philosophy towards it. The crux of it is what we may engage with, but there has been a work of looking at it at different lenses and perspectives, of questioning certain aspects and then coming out with some sort of solution of doing that. Now once again, why for children and why for everybody else is that, are we saying that the right to question or look at it or view at it at different perspectives will only be in the hands of a few and the rest will only get the summarization of it? Or we assume, or we believe rather, that everybody has the right to question and everybody should actually be engaging with different dimensions and perspectives of it, and the earlier we start the better it is, which means that you are not going to teach anyone what question to ask or how to ask question, but it needs to come from this fundamental belief that we all can ask questions and asking questions is okay at the end of the day, right? It's also important now to stay with that and find other perspectives to that questions and then evaluate whether the question is valid or not valid, not wait for someone else to validate that in the first place. Okay. uh, and I think in current times it's very important because I think everywhere, whether we consume media of any form, right, or in a very consumption based culture that we are living it, we don't deny that we are not living in a consumptive culture at the end of the day. But there is nothing wrong with consumption as long as you are you have an agency relationship with that consumption, right? Where I'm saying that you have some role to play in that consumption. Either you have transacted it, either you have bought it, you have cooked it, you are. But if the people who are producing it are assuming that you have no role, you will just have the capsule, everything will be in a capsule format. I think there is somewhere I think we need to rethink, and that's where I think the need for a book like Philosophy for Children comes more for as parents and as adults and educators. And it's a very interesting book because if I read the chapters that are there, the name of the chapters is Seeing, Thinking, Reading, Writing, Mathematics, Art, Being Good, Learning, And if I engage with the first chapter, first of all, it has got some beautiful illustrations, beautiful. I mean, that itself is enough for a little older kids to at least, browse through and question. And in seeing, of course, we first ask the questions that how do we see, right? Of course, we see with our eyes. But if we close our eyes and we know that we are in a place which is our room, and I touch this mug, do I still not know that this is a mug? If the context is given to me and I am used to it, right? So what then is seeing? Is it only through eyes, or it's also about knowing, right? And then being able to see that. And now I take everything away. I am sitting here and I am thinking that, oh, in Delhi people must be feeling so cold, and if I had been in Delhi I would have worn that jacket of mine. And I can almost see myself, if of course I'm acquainted with this place called Delhi, uh, to maybe playing with Ginny, or meeting Shweta. I'm seeing that, but am I there? Is it happening? But I'm imagining. So is imagination not seeing? Right? And I think when as adults we work on it, Shweta, I think, as you always say, empathy is not about this one course or one learning. It's about practicing it, living with uh, living with unpredictability, and being able to accept it at every point in time, right? At the same point in time, just give me one moment. Uh, so at the same point in time, I think it's very important to feel this. Uh, I think often as adults we get compelled to answer all the questions that the children ask us. Right. I think this book may pave the way to shift from that, and also make you comfortable to ask a counter question. Like parenting teaches you to be obtuse, right? That if you someone is asking why can I not have the toffee, you don't need to give a reason. Like what I will do, yeah, I wonder why, and why is that white cat sitting there, right? Which means you are engaging. You don't need to. Often we are so driven towards solving the problem कि problem ऐसा है मैं टॉफी खाने नहीं दूंगी अभी, so we tend to justify. Whereas we often don't understand that maybe the question is coming just to test you, to heck that how much are you going to live with the problem. So let's stretch the problem, let's bring something more, and let's see what it happens. um, I felt extremely excited and energized by reading this book, right? Not that everything I'm in a position to practice at this point in time, but I think obtuse thinking is something, as parents we all need to learn the art of being obtuse, and that will help you. At the same point of time, I think it really stretches you as a human being and as a significant adult, not to come to conclusion immediately, not to try and assume that role that I know a lot and or I am supposed to know and solve everything, but rather being more participatory in the quests, because children are much more curious and inquisitive that you are. So live with their questions maybe, and try and see where which all perspectives open up because of this.
Right. So this book sounds heavy, but also very, very interesting and does seem to open the doors in many ways of thinking and being with children. And when I was listening to you, I was reminded by, because of course children ask all sorts of questions. And so you already know that you don't have all the answers. And what would you say? So for example, when my son said, so how did you know that I was Soham? Because when I was a baby, I would
Hmm.
not have been able to tell you.
Hmm, 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 hmm,
So
hmm.
then those are like the layers of thinking that he's going through about like
Absolutely. His
he's
own identity, his own
yeah,
journey,
he was born with
actually.
this
Right.
identity and he was
Right.
very sure that he was born with the identity. He like I think he's still yet to learn that people give him his identity as well.
Hmm,
But so he's trying to discover himself like very soon
hmm.
right now. So we hope he'll be able to find to his questions also.
It is
Uh,
written in a very interesting way, especially for the
mm,
parent.
mm,
But I mean, that's what now. The moment when we do not find a ready-made answer to it, we assume that the context is heavy, or the context. I mean,
mm,
it just asks you to be with it for quite some
mm.
time, and
Right.
not necessarily. you transact it exactly in the same way with children.
Mm,
But I think nowhere any book as parents, always we have books where there are ready-made stories, right? Most of the time, of course, highly engaging
mm, mm,
stories which are multi-layered, nuanced, right? But suddenly, if there is a book which asks you to engage with a concept and which is not a very structured, tangible concept, right? It
mm,
makes us feel uncomfortable. But ideally, that should not be the case, because we should live with intangibility at every point in time in our lives, right? At the end. And I
mm,
think that's what this hints at.
mm.
Right? Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So thank you, Poulomi, for bringing this book. And I hope people who are watching this, they are going to really open themselves up to
Yeah.
the idea of this book and the idea that, how we need to be open to questioning ourselves and also allowing the space for the questions to be, whether
Right,
it's
right. Like I will just give another example. Like, I don't expect my daughter uh to maybe hide things for me, right? But if there is toffee which is placed at a particular way, and we really do not have any screen at home except this occasional bursts of mobile which she, coaxes her father to share with, right? And often, if the mobile will be lying, she will never do that with me, because she understands she will do it with her father. And my expectation as an adult often becomes that, you should come and speak to me and share, and we should have the transparency, only to realize that that makes her already an adult to understand those boundaries, and suddenly being transacting to do that. No, that's not the thrill. The thrill is the resistance that she's facing. so
Hmm,
so her learning is to find out other ways to solve this problem. If I suddenly assume that there is no problem, only you and me are equal and we can participate, it just
yeah,
confuses her at that this point in time, right? At the end of the day. So so and it has taken me some time to understand that, because how I think and feel, not necessarily the other person will do it in that way. So
yeah,
when I started seeing it from her, that there is a thrill to climb up the racks of the kitchen and access something, rather than asking and I saying yes, okay, you can get it, there is no fun in this entire
yeah,
thing altogether, right? So how do I create that fun, is the problem. The problem is not about, you can ask this and I will say yes, and you can ask this, I will say no. It's about, how do I say, get that little sense of thrill and adventure, and something
mm,
that happens out of
yeah. Okay, this is triggering many thoughts, but I'm going to
it.
hold on to them right now because so much happens at home with my son. But yeah, but anyways,
Yeah, and it's a journey, right? None of
yeah,
us actually reach at it. I mean, then to all of us would have achieved, right, the entire salvation, and would have been like under the Bodhi tree. No, I think it's an entire journey. But I mean, how gradually we open up towards that is a question. Because I think one thing I am more or less realizing, Shweta, and um, that is where selection of most of my reading and what I bring in, is that this generation, right? I mean, our children particularly, and with every subsequent generation, is going to see much more comforts and privileges than us, right? So, for us, what had been the existential question which propelled us to find something in life, like maybe a better job, or some or a better work, or trying to do something, I am not sure whether this generation will be propelled by that for a longer term, right? Because many things are already there. So for them, what it is, you you have to already assume that position of no question, that this is the safe place that we can come and try and understand each other. Because the moment I look at it in a judgmental lens, कि अच्छा तुम्हें तो सब मिल रहा है, and we struggle so much, immediately the barrier happens, then we none of us understand each other in the first place, in fact,
yeah,
and we don't meet at any point in time.
yeah,
So we will have problems with younger employees at office too, of course, when our children will, keep on growing and doing that.
right, great. Yeah. So I think the audience that's watching this, I'm sure you now know very well that what do we mean or what does Poulomi mean when she say, there are going to be uncertainties, you will not have all the answers, and let's become okay with that also. And let's build our own capacities to be okay as well,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
all these
And
things.
I think the last 2.5 years that we and the world are living with, I think, had more or less also opened up to these uncertainties and unpredictabilities, right? We cannot really say that 6 months down the line, surely this is going to happen.
Hmm.
While we as adults may cope with it because of our own lived experience, that eventually something will, figure out. But imagine a child doesn't know. Their lived experience is this 4, 5, 6 years or whatever, 8, 9, 10 years. So yours and theirs need to meet somewhere, and it can only meet when both of us are able to embrace questions and the uncertainties of each other, no, at the end of the day. In fact, right. And I think we are becoming very philosophical through this. I
Yeah,
just realized that, but it's okay. I think do check out the book. And I
yeah,
think maybe, and that's what I'm saying, that question doesn't mean always you need to question others. I think staying with the questions also are very, very important at the end of the day. And philosophy is not a bad thing. I think we are dictated by it, and I'm using the word dictated by meaning it, or we are driven by it at all possible times of our life. It's just that we don't recognize it, or we don't use that language to
yeah,
define it at the end of the day.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we look forward to what you bring up next week,
Yeah, yeah. I
Pauline.
promise next week
Yes.
it will not be anything like that. It will be, I think, because it will be February and closer to a day at Guinness Planet, so it will be fun. Though this
Right.
is also equal fun because try.
Yeah.
I mean, all I can say is the carrot, to push people is that when someone is you are on a call, and usually what happens, then only all the questions come. Can I please go and take the cheese from the fridge and eat it? Can I please go and take the cheese from the You will have a counter question, not a question. He said, yes, you may, but do you know why the blue color of the fridge has gone into the sky? And just see that and see what happens at the end of the day. I can guarantee for the next half an hour nobody is going to disturb you, but rather because children like that, they
Yeah.
love to be pushed and challenged to think. That's how their brains develop, in fact. But to be able to do that, you need to be very an agile thinker. Think on the feet, in fact.
Yeah. All right. इसके ऊपर भी workshop करनी पड़ेगी, Pauline. But meanwhile, all of you, I mean, you've been hearing us for the last 15, 16 minutes. Do join us for a day on Ginnys Planet also on 6th Feb, and there are awesome
And
events
there will be
happening.
no philosophy. It will be only action and lots of fun. Trust me on
And,
this.
and,
In
and
fact, yeah,
everybody will have fun
yeah,
also,
yeah, yeah. Right,
so
yeah.
learn and grow with diversity with us. So do check guinnessplanet.com and see what we're talking about when we say a day on Guinness Planet. And of course, what Guinea Reads is going to be back next Tuesday. So see you
All
all
right,
then.
all right, people. Thank you. Bye, 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 Shweta. Bye.